Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast, The Ins, Outs, and Selling a Business. When you're considering selling your company, a number of pieces need to come together, like pieces of a puzzle for a successful transaction. These pieces include assembling your trusted advisor team, your corporate attorney, maybe your state and trust attorney, your wealth management advisory team, your CPA, and of course, an investment banker like Osage. Other pieces include robust financial, operational, sales, reporting systems, so you can deliver timely and accurate information that is critical to buyers when they are looking at your company. But there's one piece that kind of sits out here. It kind of completes that picture. You know, you got a puzzle and you're doing it, and you put the hard pieces over here and you kind of finish it up, and you kind of put them in. Well, this critical piece is sometimes discounted, overshadowed, or doesn't get the proper attention from business owners when preparing the company for sale. Elements of this piece, go to the heart of your business. It's literally the lifeblood of your operation. It brings creativity, energy, helps improve productivity, a diverse skill set, and expertise that help you drive growth and profitability over all these years. The contribution of this piece that's sitting over here sometimes are overlooked. And if it's not part of that puzzle, buyers could potentially discount your business when looking to sell it, or your business may not be sellable at all. So what is this invaluable piece? It's your team. And as you look around this room today, I thought it'd be a great idea to bring members of the Osage team to our podcast today. Because like our clients, we're also a business. And without the dedication and drive of the people in this room and people who couldn't be here today with us, we would not be the successful investment bank Osage has been that business owners turn to when they're making one of the most important decisions of their lives, selling their company. For over 22 years, we've been in business. So I'm really happy to have Jim Young, Will Wilcoxson, and Philip D. with us today. So Jim, I'm going to start with you. You've been with us over 3 years. You've gone through the trials and tribulations of working with business owners, and as we always talk about, a highly emotional decision to sell their company. And what are some of the things that you've learned or got you shocked or say, wow, over these last 3 years?
Yeah, sure. First, Keith, thanks for having me. Great being back. And it's great being a puzzle piece as part of the Osage team. So I'm really excited to be here. Just a little way of background. Prior to joining Osage, I have 35 years of M&A experience with some very large corporations, IBM, General Electric, and more recently Legrand. But the last 3+ years at Osage has been just a tremendous experience working with you guys. And I've really enjoyed it. It's a different world when you're working for our clients versus working for an employer doing transactions. It's the same underlying deal, whether you're buying a business or selling a business, but we make it very, very personal at Osage, and that's more meaningful. I mean, it's nice getting together, but we often see each other on Zoom meetings with our clients. Sometimes we're on the golf course together. Some play pretty well, sometimes not so great, but
right,
but we'll take it, right? And
it's all about having a good time.
Yeah, no. So it's that personal relationship that we're developing not only in this team but with our clients that's very exciting.
Well, yeah, I think Jim, kind of switching from the buy side to the sell side has been a learning experience, and dealing with a family close business owner has also opened your eyes, as Will. Will is a number, I think Will, just over 2 years now, maybe longer.
A little bit longer.
We're having so much fun, I forget.
It seems like it was just yesterday.
It does. So Will comes, you come from the venture world.
Sure. Yes. So I spent about 15 years in venture capital, most recently as a partner with Axiom Ventures. And we would see a lot of books and a lot of business plans. And the page that we always turn to first was the management team. And we still do, because we want to look and see, what's the value in the company. And the value is usually the people.
Right. And who's driving that growth? Who's driving that success? And we'll get into a little bit later, but how that the buyers perceive the management team. Whether we think we did the right thing, our clients think they set it up correctly. When a buyer comes in, they have a whole different set of, checklists they want to go through, personalities and skill sets and experience and everything else. So I think it's really critical, like you said, that, without a good, solid management team supporting the business owner, and I'm very lucky, Osage is lucky to have you guys here. And then, of course, we have Philip, who's D, same last name. He's my son, who's our longest tenured employee. He's been with me for like 27 years now. Close to it, right, Phil? And,
yeah, that's correct.
And how are things been with you? And how do you, what are a couple of takeaways? You're at the front line, right? You're at, we're out there doing the deal, but you are doing a lot of interactive. These buyers are calling you. When they get the SIM, they get the books, and they ask a lot of questions, even though they have this document in front of them. And you're like, hey, if I go to page 32 over here, this is what we're talking. Oh, yeah. So what are some of the takeaways? Because you interned with us in high school, you interned with us in college, and now you've been with us for since you graduated.
Yeah, first of all, I'm happy to be here. So thanks for having me in as well. I think since I graduated college in 2019, I think some of the biggest takeaways is, for me, is maintaining that flexibility and being versatile and almost working like a Swiss Army knife, so to speak. And I've been doing all sorts of things, definitely on the back end, managing our CRM system and things of that nature. I think one of the biggest takeaways is, though, running the auction process is I've had, the opportunity to meet with and talk to a bunch of professionals in the investment banking industry and private equity world where, I wouldn't have an opportunity to meet. So I've been able to build a great network of connections and relationships, with potential buyers and private equity funds all across the nation and even in Europe and Canada. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway is the fact how important, the part of the process is, that I run. I have to, send out NDAs, one-page profiles, all types of documents to individuals, like I said, all over the country and even the world. And, in certain circumstances, the process doing that process means that I need to be talking to over a couple hundred people in a week span. With each specific deal, and it's very important to stay on top of the game and making sure that these potential buyers are getting the information that they need and they want to be able to evaluate the opportunity properly. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because Phil says he's a frontline guy, and you guys don't. Everybody's involved. We have a team of 4 people, so. It could be Jim and I, it could be Will and I, but Phil and Jen, who couldn't be here today, she's actually on a vacation, but they are in the background getting everything ready to go. But I find it funny, you guys appreciate this, is that when we launch a deal, as soon as we hit the button, I hear Philip say, "Here we go." Yeah. Right? And literally after that, the phone rings. I mean, it's that quick, right? That as soon as that email goes out, the phone rings, right? And Phillips goes, "Here we go." And next thing you know, I said, "What's going on?" "Well, I just got 152 emails," and literally like that. And filtering out, "Thank you, but no," or "Yes, we want more information." So coordinating all the activity, it's a lot. And to your point, we all wear a lot of hats, but it's really about collaboration, right? I mean, we must, during a deal, we're talking a couple, 3, 4 times a day, right? Mm-hmm. And then we get closer to, during due diligence, and the thing gets that last 72 hours. I mean, we're living in each other's living rooms, right? I mean, we're going through a deal right now like that.
Yeah. So Keith, I work from my home office,
right?
And I often have it on you on speakerphone, and my wife has become an M&A expert just by overhearing it.
Right.
So that's part of the lifestyle.
It's right. So, it's so. and it's important for our audience to know that we always said, I've said it on this podcast before, is that, and we all feel this, and it's part of our culture, is that this is the most important decision our clients make. So understand what's motivating their sale, what their goals and objectives are through the sales process. Helping them become a well-informed, educated seller, and then giving choices is critical. Mm-hmm. And, so that transparency, that communication, that trust build, it kind of starts at the beginning, right? A lot of people don't know this, but we spend a lot of heavy lifting. We invest a lot of time up front before we even take on a client, because we want them to understand what we believe. And we're not looking to be biased. We're trying to give them a clear picture of the valuation without digging real deep into other aspects. But Jim, maybe you can just touch a little bit about that, because we just went through this process with a company, and it was like, well, I was hoping for more, but right.
Right. Sure. No. Happy to address the early in the process. We offer complementary valuation modeling to our prospective clients, and there's a reason behind that. We want to understand what the value of the business is. We want to tell them what can be expected in today's marketplace based on our experience, what we're seeing in this particular economy, and that shifts over time. What the value might have been a year ago today versus today are two different things. And so what we do is we put together a fairly comprehensive valuation model that triangulates across a number of methodologies. We use discounted cash flow, comparable companies, comparable transactions, an LBO model. And these are all proven financial valuation techniques that buyers use themselves, whether it be a strategic corporation looking to buy a peer company in the marketplace. They rely more heavily on discounted cash flows, or a private equity firm, which does leverage buyouts, the LBO model that I mentioned, which they have to rely on debt.
Yeah. So to your point here, so this valuation model, right? We want to be of like minds. And I think one thing about Osage, and I think we all share this view, and we'll feel free to chime in on this, Phil, as well, is that we don't want to take on a client for the sake of taking on a client. And then, by the way, 9 months later, say, hey, it's only worth X, even though you want a Y, so take the deal, right? That's a transactional approach, right? We're a relationship firm. And I think we all kind of share that if it doesn't work for you, then just hold off. Right? We'll go to market a different time. We've learned a lot, and we'll repackage it up. You'll make some improvements to your business, and we'll go to market a year from now. And sometimes you deliver an incredible deal, like we did with a client about a year and a half ago. And the client decided to walk, mainly because they got cold feet or their ego got in the way, whatever you want to call it. And you're at the heart of that kind of transaction, and it's like, all you can do is advise, right? And maybe, you can, it was a tough decision to say, okay, then we'll just go back to the buyer and tell them no, right? We didn't push it, but we tried to advise them.
Right. So in that particular case, we had an entrepreneur who had built a really exciting business, which unfortunately during COVID suffered quite a bit. And he had to let a lot of the team go, and a lot of the projects that they were working on went on hold. We were able to communicate the real value that this individual had created in the market. He had great brand name recognition, a very thoughtful individual. And at the end of the day, we were able to deliver an offer that was quite compelling. What we found, though, was through that process, our client really did some soul searching. And I think he really had a hard time picturing himself working for somebody else.
As an employee.
Mm-hmm. And even though they valued the fact that he could, hire a team, close deals, really build something quickly, and they gave an offer that would reward him for doing so, he just had a hard time picturing himself coming in at 8:30 and reporting to somebody else. It just wasn't in his DNA.
Yeah, and then on this, so we're trying to make it work, right? So when we have this with with a couple of clients that we've dealt with, and in this particular case, we went back to the buyer and said, look, because if it's a issue for a client, no matter how small you think, if it's a concern of our client, it's a concern of us. It needs to be rectified and satisfied. So we went back to the buyer and said, look, this is his concern. He said, look, what was the quote? He can work from his home office with his feet on the table. As long as I can get a hold of him, that's all I need.
Right.
Right?
They were very accommodating.
right? And we went back, said, this is what we can, this is where you're at. This is the flexibility. You know, we'll set up another meeting with you, one-on-one with who your boss is going to be. You guys can go have lunch. He just couldn't get there, right? And so what did we do? We said, okay, right? We didn't force the issue because that's not what we do. We want, you know, one of our biggest sources of referrals is former clients,
Exactly.
or past clients. They're not former, they're clients of ours, but clients that we've successfully closed. And Phil, I mean, you get the calls and you sit in, you know, as my left ear sometimes in a room when we're on a Zoom call or something, and you're listening to some of these conversations. And I know you're thinking as a young person that, you know, all these older owners making these very difficult emotional decisions, and sometimes you're writing notes to me, reminding me, right? Don't forget about this. Don't forget about that, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe. How do you perceive some of these things? Because you're like, it's like an oh boy moment for you, because you're the youngster in the room, frankly, right? And it's like, and we've seen a lot, but we never see it all. And you know, how does that affect you when you're trying to? What have you learned from this?
Yeah, it's definitely a hectic experience, and you know, reviewing and, you know, listening to comments on emails and Zoom calls from our clients. You know, at first it's like, oh wow, you know, these are, you know, pressing issues that might be smaller. But that being said, like you said, I want to reiterate, like, if it's a problem for our client, it's a problem for us. And, you know, we try and give our clients guidance, but that being said, it's ultimately their decision, and we don't take away from that. It is the client's decision. It is their business. And, you know, personally, I've never been in a situation where I've been a business owner or been in charge of a team of, you know, workers. So, you know, it's hard for me to understand and see, you know, what exactly these business owners, you know, are thinking and going through. That being said, I can kind of understand exactly, you know, why they're, you know, stressed about certain points during the transaction.
Yeah, you know, and I think we talked about this a lot, about the communication, right? And so, Jim, let's talk about, you know, we're involved with a recent transaction, a couple, and Will as well. But you know, you'll get a call, right? And the first thing you'll do, or an email, is that you'll pick up the phone and say, "We got to find an answer for this," right? I mean, so, you know, so it's not like, okay, you're just going to answer the question or come back. It's our job is to absorb it, think about it, and strategize to how we can get to the right answer that works for our client. And sometimes it needs to be compromised. Sometimes we have the hard question, right, to ask our client, what do you want? What do you need to make this happen?
Yeah, Keith, that kind of brings it back to the team concept. I mean, these are complex transactions. And while we have a world of experience individually, sometimes it's best to collaborate with each other and brainstorm about maybe a more creative solution. And so that's the value of having this team.
Right. And Will, from your, we're working on something, right? We're all working on something right now, right? Together. And you were in the room, with a group, a couple days ago, and reading the room is important, right? And being on those calls is important. So when you read the room, right, you kind of get a feel for, what's going through your mind.
Yes, yeah, and body language says a lot.
Right.
When in this most recent example that you're talking about, we had some prospective buyers in the room with an owner and some subset of his management team. And initially, his perspective was, I'd like to sell and retire, and I'll give you a short period of time before I retire. As he got to know the buyers, you could see the body language really coming alive. He was excited because these buyers, there were two young gentlemen who have have raised some money to buy a company. And you could see his enthusiasm. He felt like he was these young people in the seat 30 years ago, and they felt like they had a bond with him. So he went from saying, I'll give you 90 days or I'll give you 180 days to maybe we can work out a role where I can stay involved longer. And of course, that's music to the ears of buyers, because the best way that they can de-risk their investment is to have continuity. And maybe it's not having that CEO there 40 hours a week or even 10 hours a week, but calling on a key client once in a while, or picking up the phone or going to visit somebody and show that he's still part of the business and part of the excitement. And that is worth its weight in gold.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here today to our podcast, Ins and Outs of Selling a Business. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to subscribe on our YouTube channel. I'd especially like to thank our team members, Jim Young, Will Wilcoxson, and Philip D. for being here today. I hope you enjoyed it, get the feel for who we are, what we are about, and how we work with our clients to help them sell their companies. To learn more about Osage Advisors, you can visit our website at osageadvisors.com. You can email me at kdee@osageadvisors.com, or you can feel free to pick up the phone and call anybody in this room today at 860-767-3273. Thanks again for being here, and have a great day.